Hello, welcome to 2022. This is my first video for 2022. I went on a long break. I'm back now and I'm happy to have you here, you watching. So, Happy New Year, and we pray that this new year brings us so much great things, especially in the Power BI world. And today, to start my first interview, is none other but Miguel LLopis of the Microsoft team, and he's here to share with us what they've been up to and the future. Welcome, Miguel.
Hi, Ebenezer. Thank you for hosting me. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and Happy New Year to all of you. Best wishes from Microsoft and from myself for all of you in this new year.
Nice. All right. So we'll kickstart after the New Year wishes. We'd like to know who Miguel really is. So, Miguel, a little bit about yourself, and if possible, tell us how you got into Microsoft and what you do there.
Sure, my pleasure. My name is Miguel LLopis. I'm originally from Spain. I've been working for Microsoft for about 13 and a half years now, since late 2008. Studied at Microsoft just fresh out of college. And then for a couple of years, I was an engineer working on some early projects that eventually led to what the M language, the Power Query formula language, is today. After a couple of years, I realized I was way more excited about talking to customers and defining the next wave of functionality in the product than writing code. So I decided to switch disciplines and became a program manager in what by then was the beginnings of a Power Query team. Over the years, been really fortunate and really lucky to be delivering Power Query, seeing all the impact it's had for many of you, the business of course as well, but for me it's all about the impact on the individuals and hearing a lot of good stories about time saved, things that couldn't be solved before that now can be solved with Power Query. So it's really fulfilling, really rewarding, to the point that I've been working on it for the last 10 years and I still would love to continue working on it for many, many more years. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. The team grew. I'm currently a lead for a few other program managers as well on the team, focusing on Power Query, focusing on Dataflows, the M engine, the connectors, and really all the data preparation technologies that just as a whole package enable data access and seamless data preparation across many products, Excel, Power BI, the Power Platform, and many more.
Wow. It's nice to find the people behind the thing that we love so much, which is Power BI. Recently, I think I was talking to my team and I was telling them I'm yet to actually use any product as useful as the Power BI with the Power Query. I mean, it's an end-to-end data analysis tool. I'm yet to see anything close in the market. And like Miguel said, sometimes you feel like a magician using the query editor, especially when people bring in the data and you see a lot of issues and you're able to mangle and run around and turn it into something useful to actually talk to the client or talk to the data. So big ups to the people behind. Big ups, Miguel. It's nice hearing from you. So
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much, and I get to be the guy who takes the fun and the opportunity to present the great work that a huge, really amazing team of individuals and talented engineers and program managers and designers work on it day by day. But it's really a team effort, and it couldn't be the same thing without customers either. So all the feedback and all the suggestions you all send day by day over the years, it's really what helps us shape the next wave of capabilities.
I mean, one thing that Power BI and Power Query by extension does very well, it's your involvement of customers in building the product. Because it's one thing that we are always happy to see. You complain about something just a month earlier, only for you to see it being resolved in the following month. And it's really cool. I mean, you are actually embedding insights into a product, like consumer driven product, which is using the data because the data product and using our own data to build such a product is fantastic. And big ups to the team for that.
Thank you. Yeah, customer feedback is invaluable for us. The other thing that I would say it's key to our success with Power Query and Power BI overall. We at Microsoft we love making decisions based on data, right? So Power Query and Power BI help you analyze that data, whether it is telemetry or other signals. And the fact that we use our own tools, we use Power Query, we use Power BI, we use Dataflows internally within our team to monitor the data that's business critical for us, helps us also push the boundaries for what are the missing features in the product so that we can better benefit from the data that we have at our disposal. So I would say it's a combination of listening to customers, but also being our own customers that really helps mature the product.
Yeah, I remember one of the selling points to me to my organization was that this is a tool that Microsoft uses in-house. So they first build it for themselves before even us. So once they are using it, then it is definitely good. So I mean, if you're wondering why you should rope on into Microsoft Power BI and the query editor, I mean, once the product developer is using it himself or itself, it tells you how useful the tool really is.
Thank you.
So, all right, Miguel. So, apart from always trying to solve customer problems and trying to help the world of data, what do you do for fun? I mean, in your leisure.
You mean in my life outside of work? Well, I'm a huge soccer fan coming from Spain. That should be no surprise. I'm a Atletico Madrid fan, and but I know the Africa Cup is coming up as well, so I'm rooting for Ghana. Although, as you were telling me earlier, it's probably the good players like Asian and others are gone, but still wish you the best.
Yeah, I mean, my my money would be on Algeria in the African Cup. We built a model and we hope Algeria takes the cup. We're seeing a large influence of the North African teams in this particular cup. I'll see how that pans out over time. We are doing all that with Power BI and the query editor as usual to be able to see insights and what is expected to come up.
That's very
Anyway,
cool.
so Miguel, I mean, take us through the Power Query editor. What has been the past, its users, um, especially going into data flows, use cases, and also taking us into the future. So at this time, I would give you the opportunity to present to us what you have on the Power Query editor, and then we can continue from there.
Sure thing. Let's take a little bit of a tour. Um, Let me start actually by, for those of you maybe wondering, okay, what is this Power Query thing that they're talking about? So what is Power Query? So really Power Query is a tool that allows people to connect at the data they need and actually bring it into the data shape they need to do many different things. But of course that's harder, easier said than done, right? Because the world's data can live in many different places. You have data living in files, Excel files, text files, even PDF documents, and a lot of PDF documents have things that look like tables, and you'd like to import Parquet files and many other formats. Of course, it's not about connecting to a single file. You could have groups of files maybe sitting in a folder. Classic scenario could be a spreadsheet with the sales numbers for a given week, and then a new spreadsheet gets created every week with data for the week before, right? And you would like to maybe bring all of that data into a single report to look at sales for the entire year, right? Or even to predict what's going to look like for the following year. So giving you the tools and the experiences to be able to do that is the key goal for us with Power Query. But of course, data can live in other places, and of course, databases on-prem and in the cloud. It's another big one. From SQL Server, Oracle, Access. The older and newer guys in the block as well. Data warehouses, Snowflake, Synapse, Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift. Like you name it. There's an explosion of different types of data sources. You want to talk big data, right? Hadoop, Spark, and others. And of course, everything else, right? Dot, dot, dot with things like web pages. Think about the amount of data that lives on the web, on the World Wide Web right now, right?
Right.
Gazillions and gazillions of web pages, and there's a lot of data there that can be consumed as part of your, reports and analysis for many different scenarios. Public data, even corporate data that may be sitting in a web page, you can actually import. Web services or data services, XML, other systems like maybe telemetry analytics, website analytics like Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, and many more. Everything you want to connect to, really, if you think about ODBC and all the generic interfaces we support, it's really everything. But of course, it's not only about connecting to a single source of data, it's about bringing all of that data together. So you need that consistency to be able to reason on top of all of these things together. I like to use this diagram that shows like a frequency modulation for Power Query connectors, because that's really what they are. Each of the sources and data source examples that I shared on the first block, they're different, right? Some of them have query interfaces like SQL and databases. Some of them do not, like web pages or Excel files. So it's just very heterogeneous. And you need a way to just connect to all of these data sources, authenticate with the right credentials, Windows authentication, OAuth, username and password. You need to be able to have a consistent set of data types. Numbers are numbers. Precision for different numbers gets mapped differently in different tools. Text, dates, different files may have dates in different formats like month, day, month, year, and all the variations in different cultures. So you need a tool that allows you to bring all of that data into a consistent shape so that then you can actually analyze it. On top of the Power Query connectors, we provide a front-end experience, what we call the Power Query experiences, that first walk you through the process of connecting to data, getting the data from the place you need. In this screenshot, I actually show the SQL Server database connector experience in Power Query Online, where you can provide server, database. Optionally, you can do things like a native SQL statement if you already have a statement to run. Otherwise, you can simply go through and actually explore the data that's available. In this case, all the tables in that SQL Server database that I connected to, and just select the ones I want. And from there, I'm given the chance to actually transform my data, because we know data is never in the right shape. I may need to remove columns. I may need to split columns. I may need to, unpivot some data, maybe working against the spreadsheets. So yeah, with the Power Query Editor experience, we provide over 300 different data transformations, highly visual, highly interactive, consistent across all of these data sources, and just giving users the tools they need to bring the data into the right shape. But besides me and probably Ebenezer, very few people do data preparation for fun. They always do it because they have a goal. Maybe their goal is to analyze that data with Power BI or create a report, look at that data from Excel, maybe create a data-driven application using Power Apps, or maybe run additional insights applications within Dynamics or Azure and other products that we integrate with. Power Query is integrated with over 10 different products and services currently, including desktop-based applications like Excel on Windows or Mac, as well as Power BI Desktop, but also cloud-based experiences like Dataflows in Power BI or the Power Platform. So really a wide range of scenarios coming in, different sources, transformations, and different workloads and products that you can use Power Query in. So I wanted to zoom in a little bit and talk about data flows. Data flows
Yeah.
in the context of Power BI. So what are data flows? You've probably been using the Power BI for a while now, and yes, Power BI is this self-service business intelligence tool or service that actually allows me to monitor my data through dashboards when I go to PowerBI.com, and then I have this Power BI desktop application, which allows me to create my own custom reports and data sets. So on top of that, you could say, well, what happens if I'm always in all of my reports and dashboards depend on this customers table that actually has a lot of data preparation to get it to the right shape? Maybe I need to clean up a few records. Maybe I need to join it with other sources of data to maybe analyze by segment or by geography or other facets for a customer. And today, you probably, if you don't know data flows, you're thinking, well, I need to recreate the same set of queries in all of these reports. And what's worse is that if I now need to change this one step, I need to go do it in 20 different places. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a single place to define my customers' data preparation logic, and then I have my curated customers entity somewhere that then I can reuse in all of these downstream data sets and reports that I'm creating. Well, that is exactly what data flows are for. As you see in this diagram, data flows sit in between the raw data sources, my SQL database, my Excel files, my data lakes, and the downstream reports and data sets and dashboards that not just me, but many users in my organization could be using. So really the sweet spot for data flows would be a user who's specialized on preparing data, and that doesn't need to be a professional developer. It could be what we call a citizen user, the classic user who lives and breathes Power Query inside of Excel, Power Query inside of Power BI Desktop, to just go and define those entities in a data flow, keep them up to date with daily or weekly refresh, leverage advanced capabilities like orchestration, compute capabilities that we provide for higher scale and power, and then just allow many other users to leverage those results from those data flows in many different artifacts.
Well, that would be a very time-saving approach to data transformation, especially in organizations that share data sets from different sources. Means that the real work that is involved in any time you pull data from different sources can be cut short once an architecture or a particular flow is determined for the kind of analysis that we want to do.
Exactly.
Wow. I mean, I've heard a lot of talk about data flows. My boss is pushing that we use it, and I'm now seeing the essence. And we could really cut a lot of real work in the data sets that we reuse, especially when different users would want to do the same kind of analysis, and therefore could just plug in into the same flow that is required.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice from your boss. Thumbs up.
All
All
right.
right, so for those of you who've probably been using data flows for a while, you may be saying, okay, this is cool, but I'm not seeing anything new here. So I figured I would actually show a little bit of a walkthrough of a few recently introduced features in data flows and Power Query Online that we actually haven't really announced publicly yet, but we're in the process of doing so later this month in January. Let me actually give you a quick run through. This first feature is actually the ability to upload a local file, reducing friction. So today, to connect to a local file from Power Query Online and Dataflows, you would need to use a gateway. We've added the capability of just uploading a local file, and we automatically take care of saving it to your OneDrive business, so that it just gets uploaded without the need to use a gateway. And then from there on, just connecting to that file is just as if the file was already in OneDrive from the beginning. Just click next. In this case, we'll put you in the text import experience. But we
When
want to
I,
go a step beyond that and actually allow you to also drag and drop files straight into the Power Query Online editor. And in this case, we also detect the fact that it's a text file and just do the right thing for you. Go ahead, Ebenezer.
when are we expecting this?
This feature, local file upload, it's actually already released since, let's say, early December. You should already be able to go ahead and try this out in both Power BI and Power Apps.
Wow. So now there will not be any need for a gateway since it will be
That's right.
saved on OneDrive.
That's right. If you don't look, if you still want to have your file on-prem all the time, you can still use the gateway. That's why we give you the two options: link to file, which is the classic functionality, and upload file. But you can do a one-time upload. And the other thing you can do, although I'm not showing in the demo, is that after that initial upload of a file, you can either go and modify the file in OneDrive Business, or if you get a new version of a file locally, you could go back to the source step for that query, click the edit, and then re-upload the same file, and we'll just take care of updating it for you.
Wow. This solves a lot of problems in
Thanks.
my organization.
Yeah, it should be simple things. Should make simple things simple, like that one-time upload. Why would I need a gateway, right? Or why do I need to manually save it?
Okay. Now there's upload file and there's link to file.
Exactly. So link to file is the classic Power Query capability requiring either on-prem gateway or just direct link. And the upload one does the one-time upload to OneDrive. So let me show you another cool feature. This is one that you've probably already seen inside of Power Query in desktop in Power BI desktop, is the ability to import data from text and CSV files based on examples. Look at this customer's text file that I uploaded. It just has data split by lines with customer records, company name, contact title, contact name. It would be really hard for me to try to extract all of this data through transforms step by step. I can just go into an example-based approach where just by typing a few examples for each of the columns I want with Power Query, we're able to infer the rest. The columns that you see on light gray in the white background cells are automatically inferred, like the phone numbers or the customer ID just get automatically inferred. And from here, you can just click create. That adds the new query to my Power Query editor. And look at the apply the steps pane on the far right. These are all the steps that we automatically recognize through our AI and heuristic models behind the scenes that otherwise the user would have had to apply manually, and not just applying them, but actually scratching their heads or banging the wall with their heads to figure out what those steps are.
I always, during my tutorials, I do a lot of teaching and tell the modern day users of Power BI as they are too lucky, because most of the things would have done with codes in the M language are now being done with drag and drop features, especially with the column from examples and all that. This is really cool with the AI feature. I mean, this one use case I'm just looking at it. I mean, if you have a company that records maybe sales in test form, and you'd want to quickly analyze your data, once it has a particular format or pattern, you could easily use the column from examples to turn it into a very cool database that you could actually draw insights from. This is really cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we definitely want to push the not just the innovation but productive innovation front, and definitely by example has been, I'd say, such a good example of that type of principle. Thank you. You were talking about drag and drop, and you were talking about visual data prep, a feature that we introduced last year, actually, yeah, a year and a half ago, was the ability to auto-detect tables from Excel files. As we all know, data in Excel is never properly formatted as tables or sheets. The vast majority of time is just raw data in a spreadsheet like what you were seeing here. If you were to import that table into Power Query, by default, you would just see spreadsheet one with the smallest rectangle of data that contains everything that were non-empty cells in that file. We recently shipped suggested tables. It's been in Power BI Desktop for a while. We just shipped it in Power Query Online recently. That give you those 3 tables automatically scraped for you, saving you all the work on having to prep your data from this spreadsheet to effectively scrape those 3 tables from it manually.
My team will be very happy with this. I was just chastising them some weeks ago that they need to move from this Excel mindset of putting anything anywhere on Excel sheet to thinking properly and properly in databases. I mean, with this, they'll just say that, boss, you can just extract the table by auto detecting Excel tables. That's a pretty good feature.
So I wanted to show you one more feature, actually 2 more features. One are enhancements to our diagram view experiences. Diagram view is a feature we shipped late in 2020 inside of Power Query Online that allows you to get boxes and arrows representation of your queries and their dependencies in a data flow. Of course, that can get tricky with so many boxes, in this case, like 19 queries in this data flow. So we recently added a minimap, which you can turn on from that bottom right corner control on the diagram view, that allows you to just see the forest instead of just the trees, right? And notice how as I zoom in, zoom out, it just updates to show the rectangle that's in focus. I could also select from the queries pane and automatically scroll that query into view, and the diagram view minimap would update accordingly as well. So all of these features and many more that we have coming on top of the diagram view will allow you to better explore your data flows in complex scenarios, to understand their dependencies, and to very visually and intuitively work through and just be more productive in how you handle complex data flows from a visual authoring experience perspective.
Okay. But how do you activate a diagram view anyway?
Good question. There are a couple of ways to activate the diagram view. It's only a Power Query Online feature at the moment. You can turn on the diagram view from the status bar at the bottom. You see this third icon from the right. This actually toggles on and off the diagram view. The other way you can actually turn on the diagram view is through the View tab. You will see a diagram view toggle similar to the one here at the bottom.
Right. Nice.
And let me show you the last group of new feature highlights. I want to show you two for the price of one. One is the ability to expand collapse the ribbon to turn it from multi-line to single line ribbon, as you can see here, the single line ribbon. The second one is a global search box that allows you within a data flow to look, search for queries that exist in that data flow. Imagine that 19 queries scenario that I was showing you. This will simplify the ability to find those queries instead of having to look through the queries pane or the diagram view and different groups. But also, as you saw, I was getting a little bit behind on my talking, so I'll wait for it to happen again. You can also use the global search box to actually search for commands within the ribbon. For example, if I first search for my products query, click on it, it actually automatically selects it. Now I want to do a merge operation on top of that query. So rather than finding merge through context menus or the ribbon, I can just type merge and I get a number of suggested actions and jump straight into the merge dialog from there. And just like that, any other transforms that exist in the Power Query ribbon. And we plan to extend this with way more capabilities in the future. We're thinking about searching for step names, even searching for more advanced stuff, maybe function names, and look at all the references to that function across your files or your queries. So yeah, it'll be a journey, but this is the beginning of an exciting journey with this feature.
I see. I mean, I always tell my friends that Microsoft claims they just started. So this is the time to hop on because it's just the beginning. Personally, because I started in 2016 and I've seen the advances in the product from 2016 to date. And I mean, I believe strongly when your folks say that it has just started, because with the new AI capabilities you are introducing, can only make it better and easier. I see it as a go-to tool for everybody. Um, I mean, you don't need to be an analyst today to be interested in Power Query and Power BI. It's for everyday person that wants to make meaning of the data and understand what is happening in our world of work. That's the beauty about the product. It's for everybody. No wonder your slogan says data anywhere, um, any place, any tagline like that for Power BI.
Thank you. Exactly. As you can see through all of these features, it's all about simplifying the experience, making it easier, making it more productive, more intuitive for people. We're probably going much longer on the features than we were expecting initially, so I will not talk through all of these items on the list, but this is just about a recap of the things we've shipped over the last couple of months, 2 to 3 months. Watch out for a Power BI blog and a Power Query blog announcement later this month, where we will cover all of these in depth. But yeah, lots of enhancements around get data, actual transformation enhancements, and also query editor features like what you saw with global search box and the ribbon and the diagram view enhancements. A lot of activity and a lot more coming over the next few months and through the rest of this year. There's some things I can talk about, some things I cannot. But I would say stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming from the Power Query and Dataflows team this year.
We can't wait. I mean, once you've mentioned that, if you could tell us those that you can talk about, I mean, what we should expect in 2022 from the Dataflows and the Power Query team in 2022. I mean,
good question. Yeah, good question. So a few things. Directionally, we still have some gaps in Power Query Online compared to Power Query Desktop, particularly connectors. It's an area where Power Query Online is still behind. Power Query Online today has about 50 connectors. Power Query Desktop inside of Power BI Desktop has about 150, 160 connectors. One of our big pushes is towards bringing all of those connectors to Power Query Online so you can use them within Dataflows as well. The other push, the other direction, is actually to bring back all the Power Query Online innovation into Power Query Desktop inside of Power BI Desktop and Excel. So all the features that I'm showing you here. And for that one, we still don't have a clear timeline for, but it's actually one of our key priorities. And I'm crossing my fingers for this calendar year. Let's see how many months we have this year. I think it's 12, so it's gonna be a little bit tight, but I'm hopeful, and definitely, hear all the feedback and the importance of bringing all of these features to Power Query in the desktop. So definitely something we're deeply committed to.
All right. So, I mean, if you put yourself on the line, what are the top three features you think you'll be bringing to us this year?
Wow. Okay, that's a tough question. Now you're asking specifics. So I would say definitely closing the gap on connectors is one of the big ones. You saw a little bit of the global search here. Global search and increasing their capabilities, it's another big area of investment. So is the diagram view itself. One more very, very cool feature that I'm super excited about is just like we were talking earlier about reusability of entities in a data flow across data sets. It's also very common for you to leverage the same queries across many different files, right? Maybe it's to create a date table, maybe it's to reuse some other function to calculate something that's specific logic for you, but you copy paste that query over and over between your data flows and between Excel and Power BI and Power Query Online. A feature that we're planning to introduce is a favorite queries library so that you could say, look, this function to generate a date table, I'm actually going to make it my favorite. And now rather than copy pasting around, you'd be able to just say, add a query from my favorites, and you add it to the current data flow, to the current project. And not only add it one time, but also we want to make it such that there will be a centralized library for you. And if you ever push an updated version of that query to your library, next time you open a data flow or a workbook where you're actually using that one, will tell you, hey, there's a new version you published. Do you want to use it? So one click of a button will update the local version with the one that you have in your library. So no specific month of the year for that one, but this is one of the big features we're getting ready for this calendar year.
That's pretty cool. I mean, pretty cool. I do a lot of copy and paste, and this is a pretty much cool feature. I wish I'll get something similar in the Power BI, also in the pages. I could copy from one page from a different file onto another file.
Got
I'm
it.
hoping.
You need to ask that one to somebody else, but yeah, I can definitely see how that would be useful.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's something I'll be looking out to. Okay. I mean, during our talk, you spoke a lot about the Power Query Online and the Power Query Desktop. Is it that thinking I'm getting that you're moving a lot of things online such that development can also be as smooth online as in the desktop? Is that the strategy?
The strategy is really one of Power Query Online becomes not only as capable as desktop, but in things like connectors and a few others that we're still running behind. But Power Query Online already got way ahead of desktop in many areas. Like diagram view is a good example. The global search box, it's another example, and many more. And really, our strategy is one of now bringing all that Power Query Online experience back into Power Query Desktop and completely replacing the Power Query Desktop experiences that exist today with the Power Query Online experience that you see now in Power Query Online and Dataflows. And that is a massive project. That is why I was telling you can't really commit to this calendar year, but it is one top priority for us that we've been working on for a while.
Wow. That would be great to see what happens with that measure and bringing them all to the same level of sophistication. I mean,
Yeah,
we're falling
exactly.
for that, so we can only hope for the best. Any other AI features that we should be expecting?
You can continue to expect improvements around the lines of the Excel suggested tables, for example. It's a feature that we have certain capabilities today. They're pretty cool, but there's always room for improvement. And that is where feedback from all of you on, hey, I tried this Excel workbook and it didn't really recognize the thing that I was expecting. That helps us refine our heuristics.
Okay.
And just like that, for text CSV, for web by example, which we didn't actually show today, for column by example, which you mentioned as well, and it's been around for a while, we continue improving those features quite a bit.
All right. Maybe my last question. Um, the M language has very little documentation. If somebody wants to commit his life to M, which I
Yeah,
normally would not ask because it looks like you're already doing a lot in making it so easy to do the drag and drop.
yeah.
I would like to find out how does somebody master the M language.
Good question. So I was pulling up Power Query documentation, docs.microsoft.com/Power Query. This has been an area of feedback from many of you over the years. The lack of deep Microsoft documentation about Power Query and DM language in particular. We started this journey from the top of a funnel. So what is Power Query? Getting data, transforming data, what are data flows? Each of these categories have tens and dozens of articles, and they're actually very deep. So if I were to pick, as an example, transform data, and I go to transform columns, actually transform table, I can find something like pivot. Here's an article that talks in depth about why would I use unpivot columns or unpivot other columns or unpivot only selected columns. What are the use cases for each of them? Highly visual, step by step, calling out the scenarios and why you would want to use one or the other. This is just but one example of the tens and hundreds of articles that we have. It builds up onto more advanced concepts like data flows and what are things like computed entities. How do I use incremental refresh and many more. um, Advanced topics like troubleshooting, what is query folding. We just published a really amazing article. Our friend Miguel Escobar published a really amazing article a few weeks ago about query folding in depth. And just like that, a bunch of other articles. Now you may wonder, what is the M language reference? We have it in a different node, following that from top of a funnel, more simple concepts all the way down. You can see as one of the next priorities would be improving the M library reference and the M language documentation as well. But we wanted to start from that top of a funnel end user approach. To your previous point, Ebenezer, about let's make this Power Query is a tool for everyone. You don't need to be an advanced user to leverage, and starting from that introductory content and best practices, and then branching out from there to more advanced content. But to answer your question, where would I go today to learn about the M language? There's been a bunch of cool Power Query books that have been released recently. Another place you can go, powerquery.com, is our official Power Query website. And we do have a resources page in here where you can actually find reference to some of the recently introduced books on Power Query. Some of them are older than others. There's been new versions. Our friend Reza Rad and Leila Tati, they published a book recently as well. So did Miguel Escobar and Ken Pauls and company on the M is for Data Monkey and the new book for mastering your data with Excel and Power BI. The last thing I wanted to point out from PowerQuery.com is our Power Query team blog. If you're eager to find Power Query content, and not just Power Query content in the context of Power BI or Excel or Power Apps, you should subscribe to the Power Query team blog because it will actually give you that 360-degree view of everything that's happening around Power Query in terms of announcements, deep dive contents, and behind the scenes, and just getting a direct touch with our team as well.
Wow. We'll be expecting, we'll be following keenly to see what we can learn there. I mean, it's been very, very insightful chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure viewers, you can put in your questions. I may catch him again in the course of the year. I know it's a busy year for him, but I will try and catch him again. So put your questions below this interview, and the next time I get to interview Miguel, especially your feedback on the product that you've used, especially the Power Query editor, and then we can catch him on another time. Thank you very much, Miguel. It's been insightful. even though it's short, but you've actually opened our eyes and ears to key areas of the product. Thank you very much.
Sure, sounds
What
good.
will be
Sounds
your
good,
last?
Dennis. I just want to say thank you for the invitation and thanks everyone for dialing in. And definitely send your questions. We can do a Q&A session. We can do feedback in any format you want, anytime. Happy to chat. And again, thank you for your interest on Power Query.
What will be your last words for the doubting Thomases that are still waiting to hop onto this magnificent product?
Um, I would say, the Microsoft mission is to empower every person in every organization to achieve more. I like to say that the mission for Power Query is to empower every person and every organization to achieve more with data. So really it's for everyone. We're trying to make it as easy and seamless and intuitive as possible. And we continue to push on the innovation front with features like by example and more of the AI heuristics as you saw to make it even simpler. And of course with documentation and everything that comes along the way. So don't be afraid to try. The better way to learn new things is to break things. So go play with it, hack around, and engage with the community. There's an amazing community online, not only content from Microsoft, actually there's way more content from the community that you can leverage, and magnificent group of community experts and people really eager to collaborate with everyone and help each other. So that's really what I would say is my favorite feature in the product is the community.
Wow. Thank you very much, Miguel, and Happy New Year to you once more. We hope to have a great year with Microsoft, especially with the Power BI team. And to my viewers, I mean, this year promises to have a lot of tutorials, especially getting from the scratch. So those who are now hopping on into Power BI and the Power Query Editor, will be having some rapid, consistent videos from me from the basics, and also we'll be having our expert interviews as and when. I hope to one of these days, do a live session so that your questions can be answered live. So have a great year and have a powerful year. And it's bye for now. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And we've released a new dashboard for the AFCON. Try it out. You'll be amazed. Bye.